You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey guys, it's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and if you haven't already heard, Arianne Zucker, who plays Nicole Walker, is out at Days of Our Lives, and she's filed an explosive lawsuit against not only producer Ken Corday and his company, but also including disgraced and fired producer Albert Alarr. We are going to dig into this and tell you the shocking allegations, but first, please click subscribe if you haven't. I'm going to talk a little faster than I usually do because there's a lot to get through, and I don't want this to be an overly long video. So, TMZ initially broke the news saying they'd seen the court documents, but they shared what I think, in my opinion, were stunningly mild versions of the accusations. They did not report on the extent of the alleged misconduct. And then a ton of other sites basically just churned what TMZ said without bothering to go find the documents for themselves. So I looked and I couldn't easily find them. So I called Arianne Zucker's lawyer. She's an incredible civil rights lawyer named Anahita, and I'm probably going to murder this last name, Siddhartfar. I know I murdered that last name. I apologize. Anyway, really nice lady. She sent me the court documents so I could see them for myself. And man, what is in them is so much worse than what TMZ reported and what no other site seems to be reporting because they're just regurgitating what TMZ said. It's nothing sort of shocking, and you're not going to believe your ears. So yesterday, February 6th, Arianne Zucker's attorney filed this lawsuit in the LA County Superior Court. It is a civil case, meaning no criminal charges are linked to it. So it's about monetary damages for alleged wrongs done. The case is against Corday Productions, Ken Corday, Albert Alarr, and it also implicates Sony, the company that's ultimately over Days of Our Lives. So most of you know the name Albert Alarr. He's the guy that Days fired after the media got hold of the allegations that Corday Productions and Sony were reportedly sitting on and doing nothing about some bad behavior for a long time, allegedly. The lawsuit really unpacks a lot of this, and there's some really horrifying allegations. So what I'm going to do, so you can hear it for yourself and not through some lens of some website interpreting it or deciding what you should hear, I'm going to read you some sections of the lawsuit, and you're just not going to believe your ears. So no other site is covering this stuff that I've seen. First off, the suit alleges that Albert Alarr and Ken Corday are personal friends who have known one another for 2 decades. If so, and it seems so, that could explain why this behavior went on for so long. So the suit says, quote, from the onset of Alarr's employment, he repeatedly subjected plaintiff, that's Arianne Zucker, and other employees to severe and pervasive harassment and discrimination, including sexual harassment based upon their female gender. So whenever I say plaintiff, that means Arianne Zucker, who plays Nicole Walker. The next section of the suit says, Alarr engaged in this illegal behavior. It was well known to defendants Corday and Ken Corday and to the HR department of Sony Pictures Television, the distributor of Days of Our Lives, for years. Indeed, Alarr has been accused by numerous individuals of making sexually charged, inappropriate, and gender-hostile remarks and of bullying and intimidating female employees. Alarr has been accused of groping female members of the cast and in at least one instance, forcibly kissing an actress against her will. Many prominent actresses that worked under Alarr have spoken publicly about Alarr's misconduct dating back for years and how their complaints to defendants Corday and Ken Corday fell upon deaf ears. Then it goes on to say, and this is really, it just gets worse and worse. Alarr subjected plaintiff to sexually harassing comments and non-consensual physical touching of a sexual nature. For example, in making sexual advances towards plaintiff, Alarr would often say to plaintiff, if only I were 20 years younger. So this next section I'm about to read, TMZ reported as him holding her tight up against him. This is what the suit actually says. Alarr would frequently grab and tightly hug plaintiff, purposefully pushing her breasts onto his chest while moaning, "Oh, Ari." Alarr's unwelcome physical touching made plaintiff feel offended, uncomfortable, humiliated, and intimidated. Indeed, on many occasions, Alarr forcefully touched plaintiff without her consent during dry blocking of scenes. Alarr would put his hands on plaintiff's waist with his thumbs placed just above her vagina and move her around, all the while smirking and grinning in a sexual manner, making plaintiff extremely uncomfortable and violated. All right, so this next section of the suit I'm about to read you has the F word in it, spelled out in the suit, all 4 letters, describing some of his language. I'm not going to say the F word because I will get dinged by YouTube if I do. So when you hear me say F, that means the whole F word, all right? Here's what the next part says. Other times, as the cast was running their lines, Alarr would use the words in the script to make sexual comments towards plaintiff, even in the presence of the stage crew. During scenes, Alarr would make comments to plaintiff's co-stars such as, "You really just want to F her." And he would say to plaintiff's co-star during sex scene blocking, "Believe me, I'd love to switch positions with you." Alarr made it very clear that he enjoyed aggressive sex scenes and threesome sex scenes. Alarr would often make sexual comments such as, "F him like you were younger." I don't know about y'all, but at this point, when I was reading this, my skin was crawling with these allegations. And of course, these are allegations. She has to go into court and they have to prove things that went on. There's apparently a sizable witness list, though. This whole thing just kind of makes me queasy. It's disturbing. And from TMZ's sanitized take on this, I had no idea the allegations were so shocking and foul. I'm really glad that I asked for these papers before I did this video. The suit also says this: almost always, like a mantra, Alarr followed up his sexually charged comments and unwanted physical touching by saying to plaintiff, "Good thing there is no HR here." At all relevant times, defendants Corday and Ken Corday did not have an intimacy coach on set. Okay, so if you don't know what it is, an intimacy coach is there for love scenes. They're supposed to be an advocate for, the actors to protect them and make sure there's consent because they're doing simulated, lovemaking things. They're trying to make sure that the director's vision happens, but while protecting the actors involved. I know General Hospital has one, but she's alleging that Days does not. And the allegations go beyond just inappropriate sexual remarks. There's this too. The suit says, on or about November 2022, an actress on the show made anti-Semitic remarks against Jews, such as the Ukraine war was about getting rid of the, quote, dirty Jews. Alarr was present when these comments were made, and rather than protest or report this, he began to laugh, implying he agreed with the horrendous comments. Alarr was well aware that plaintiff is one of 3 Jewish people on the show. Honestly, that's inflammatory, but probably one of the least inflammatory allegations in the lawsuit. It's all terrible. There's more. The next section has an inflammatory anti-LGBTQIA slur. I want to make that clear up front. When I say this, it's a quote from the suit that's alleged to have come out of Alarr's mouth. It says, in addition to being personally subjected to harassment by Alarr, plaintiff frequently observed Alarr's repeated harassment of other women, which also made plaintiff feel intimidated and offended. Upon Alarr learning of a male actor's departure from the show, Alarr said to him in the presence of plaintiff, "At least you got to F," and then in brackets, a female actress on the show. I'm assuming they said the name of who it was. In another instance, and in the presence of plaintiff, Alarr mocked a female actress, telling her she looked like a, quote, dyke. Plaintiff frequently heard Alarr say to female actresses, "F him like you were younger," and making other sexually charged comments. Plaintiff often observed Alarr tightly hugging female actresses while moaning sexually and making sexual advances to female actresses, inviting them to his office. On one occasion, when a female actress made an inquiry of Alarr, basically asking him a question, he curtly responded, quote, "Women are so hysterical." The next section gets more broad and talks about the working conditions of all women on the cast and crew, not just the actresses, but this is very interesting stuff. The suit alleges Alarr, Corday, and Ken Corday treated female employees disproportionately than male employees. Female hair and makeup employees and female actresses were often berated and given tasks that were purposefully impossible to perform within the given time frame. Alarr often yelled at female employees in the presence of plaintiff, bringing them to tears. Alarr did not yell or berate the male employees. A female actress complained to Alarr that she was morally uncomfortable about a certain scene and was subsequently fired by Corday and Ken Corday. Moreover, female directors were given less directing time than their male counterparts. Next, the suit talks about other women on the set talking to Arianne Zucker about their experiences. It says, many of these these employees expressed to plaintiff how the harassment was affecting them, that they felt abused, and that the workplace was toxic, but they were afraid to speak up against Alarr. Indeed, plaintiff also feared coming forward as she feared retaliation and being blackballed in the industry, outcomes that have sadly proven to be true time and time again for women who report discrimination and harassment in Hollywood. At all relevant times, there was not one woman in an authoritative position on the show, as the show was run by men. At all relevant times, defendants Corday and Ken Corday did not have an HR department, and to date, do not have an HR department. Moreover, defendants Corday and Ken Corday did not provide timely training or education on sexual harassment as required under California law. All right, I'm going to paraphrase some of the next part of the suit just to move this along. There's just so much here, and it's all so stunning. The suit says, around March 2023, 5 women were inexplicably fired from the show and 2 quit due to the harassment and discrimination. Around the same time, Arianne Zucker plucked up her courage and contacted Ken Corday, since there was no HR department, to lodge her complaints and those of other employees. She said Ken Corday flippantly passed the buck to his CFO. That's the chief financial officer. I don't know what that has to do with HR and harassment, So she did, and said he referred her to HR at Sony, the distribution company. She said she felt like they were trying to discourage her from speaking up, but she persisted, spoke to Sony HR, and met with a woman named Megan Lawler there. She talked to her from March through June 2023, according to the lawsuit. She said she told this woman everything that happened and gave her a list of names of witnesses, and said 30 employees spoke up to either lodge complaints or state they saw things happening on set. The suit says even though there was an investigation and corroborating witnesses and that it had been raised to HR, Corday kept Alarr in his position working with people he'd allegedly harassed. Ari said working with him made her increasingly uncomfortable. She said in particular, he continued to be on set when she was required to shoot love scenes where her body was exposed. The set was not closed, and said it made her feel continuously violated and intimidated. The suit says Arianne Zucker told the Sony HR rep that the harassment had not stopped and instead was escalating, and said nothing was done to stop it or protect her. The suit said that when the CFO asked Albert Alarr how morale was on set, he said, "Who gives an F about morale as long as we're coming in under budget?" In April of last year, the lawsuit said Ari went back to Corday, saying the environment was still hostile, and offered some suggestions and even offered to help. And she said he got angry with her and said, "I don't know what to do about that." She said a month later, they decreased her pay and cut off a travel stipend she'd gotten for years, calling it a budget cut, but she alleges it was retaliation. At the same time her pay was cut, Arianne Zucker's suit alleges Alarr got a pay hike, and no male employees had their wages decreased. She said in June 2023, she was retaliated against again and was written off of Days of Our Lives. She reported all these things back to Sony HR, according to the suit. Since they shoot about 6 months ahead, that aligns with them exiting Nicole to Italy with no return discussed. Also, the lawsuit says Arianne Zucker followed up to ask for the results of the investigation that Sony HR said they were conducting. She said to this day, they've not provided any conclusions to her. Then, August 2023, Ari and 25 other employees wrote a petition asking that Albert Alarr be fired because leadership had taken no steps to protect them from the alleged harassment. The lawsuit claims, quote, "It was only after this media scrutiny and solely to save face that defendants finally terminated Alarr despite ratifying and condoning his misconduct for 20 years. Indeed, defendant Ken Corday continues his personal relationship with Alarr and continues to socialize with him." So, Arianne Zucker's contract was set to expire last month, January 2024, and she said in October 2023, they made her an offer to renew. She said it's customary to have, back and forth negotiation to find a mutually agreed upon rate. Said there was a sliding scale from lower to higher, and after 25 years on the show, her reps expected her to be, on the upper end of that sliding scale. for Days of Our Lives. Makes sense. The suit alleges they refused the usual negotiations and told her take it or leave it. Her agent reportedly met with refusal to discuss the terms of the deal, which was the usual course of contract renewal. The suit alleges this was all in retaliation for her bringing allegations to light. The suit's allegation end with a summary saying Ari Zucker was subject to constant discrimination and harassment, forced to work under intolerable and illegal conditions and in a hostile work environment, and said nothing was done to investigate or remedy the situation, and said instead they engaged in a pattern of retaliation against her. The suit then goes into the laws that were violated and a lot of legalese, and then says that the conduct of those named in the suit, specifically Corday and Alarr, was willful, intentional, wanton, malicious, oppressive, and despicable, deliberately causing her humiliation, mental anguish, emotional distress, and financial devastation. The suit lists 12 separate causes of action, requests a jury trial, and she's seeking unpaid wages, damages for emotional and mental distress, punitive damages, that's money to punish someone for intentionally inflicting harm, interest, lawyers' fees, and other legal costs, and any other award the court decides is proper. So then Albert Alarr's lawyer issued a statement in response to the lawsuit she fired. It said, as Ms. Zucker's own lawsuit all but admits. I'm going to pause there. All but admits means it didn't say it, okay? They're saying it stopped short of saying it. Basically, they're saying she didn't say it, but we're going to say that she nearly said it. All right. As Ms. Zucker's own lawsuit all but admits, at a time of industry-wide cutbacks, she was aggressively seeking a significant personal pay increase and additional influence on the show. Having failed in those attempts, she is now again trying to exploit vile stereotypes to denigrate and demean a black man who is in a position of power. Well, enough is enough. Every day for decades, Albert worked with hundreds of people who can and will testify about the falsity of Miss Zucker's mischaracterizations of him. We relish having a chance to share the truth and putting an end to her offensive claims once and for all. So yeah, the rep for Days of Our Lives responded to the lawsuit. They said the allegations in Miss Zucker's lawsuit are without merit. Corday Productions offered to renew Miss Zucker's contract, including offering her a pay increase. Rejecting Miss Zucker's counteroffer does not constitute retaliation. Complaints about Mr. Alarr's on-set behavior were promptly investigated. Corday Productions fully cooperated with the impartial investigation and subsequently terminated Mr. Alarr. They didn't address really a lot of what went on. So in case you're wondering what's next for Arianne Zucker's character, Nicole Walker, it does not look good. She does have scenes next week, according to the weekly spoilers, and we had confirmation that a storyline's coming where she gets her baby back, possibly in February sweeps. If she did any filming up to her contract termination in January 2024, we could see her on our screens up through May or June 2024, but we will just have to wait and see. What do you think about these shocking allegations? It sounds like she's got 25 to 30 witnesses ready to testify. 25 of them signed that petition. They already put their names out there. Yeah, I'm interested to see if this gets its day in court and what happens, and we will update you if anything does and when it does. Please drop your comments about this situation. Click subscribe if you haven't already, and definitely come back soon. This is Belinda from Soap Dirt.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.